Hey, it's Travis Johnson, nonprofit architect, helping you build a stronger nonprofit. Here today with Justin Szerletich, the Director of Content Strategy at Knucklehead Media Group. Justin, how are you doing today?
Travis, I'm doing amazing, man. Thank you so much for having me. I love podcasting. Obviously, this is what we do at Knucklehead Media Group, and I've been a fan of yours for a while, so I'm super stoked to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you could make it. I know you're just moving into your brand new house in San Diego and trying to get everything set up. And for those of you that can't see what I'm looking at, he is in the full throes of getting moved in still. And I'm just glad that you made the time to come see me today, even if it's Zoom.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm sitting on a lawn chair. There's boxes surrounding me in the middle of my dining room. So, yeah, no, I couldn't miss this. As we're gonna talk about, there's a lot happening right now with the pandemic, and a lot of nonprofits are being affected, whether it be fundraising and operations, etc. So, I definitely wanted to make sure I got this appearance on the books, and we can help as many people as possible.
No, and it speaks to what you do, and it's just it's. I know you're a Marine Corps veteran, you know the Women's Department of the Navy, and we get this get it done attitude, the can do attitude, and it doesn't matter what's going on in life, and you've got the thing you got to show up for. You're going to show up and you're going to do it, and it's going to be great. But here today, we're going to talk about continuing nonprofit mission in a COVID world, and I know we had a couple episodes that touched on this. We're also going to talk about the mysteries of giftology and how giving the right specialized gift can endear you into the hearts of your donors.
Yeah, giftology, what a word. I wish I could take credit for it because it is such a great little term. But it's coined by a gentleman by the name of John Rulin, runs the Rulin Group, which is a strategic gifting company. And Travis, you and I were talking a little bit before even recording today. My first foray into entrepreneurship was as a promotional product and strategic or luxury, and I use that in quotes, gifting company where we would design and print promotional products or help you source gifts for your clients, prospects, etc. So it is near and dear to my heart. I am a relationship management guy first, and slowly developed that into content strategy, which, as you know, because I told you, they're very similar, even though people don't see it. It's all about nurturing that relationship.
Well, that's great, and I'm really glad that you're here today. What do you mean by relationship management? Are you some kind of like marriage counselor?
Yeah, so I have a website where no, I'm joking. No, what I mean by relationship management specifically, uh, and I guess we could go even granular with this in terms of nonprofits. You have relationships with vendors, you have relationships with your donors, you have relationships with um, volunteers, advocates, etc. So it's just about keeping those relationships healthy, making sure they're good, making sure they're mutually beneficial, and that both sides feel taken care of. And one of the ways to ensure that your vendors, your advocates, your volunteers, your employees feel good is by gifting them that something that is important and of value to them. Um, if I could just jump right into it, I'll tell you the number one mistake that I see all the time, and it's extremely common, are nonprofits that send out these, promotional bags. And everybody loves swag, and I'm not saying don't buy swag, because it is fun to sometimes get, a cup holder with a company name on it or something. But if you're trying to nurture a relationship or smooge up to a donor or make sure that a vendor knows that you appreciate them, it's probably not wise to attempt to turn them into a billboard by sending them a promotional product with your nonprofit name on it. That doesn't show much value of the relationship. You're essentially saying, "Hey, I want to turn you into a billboard," not, "Hey, I care about you. Here's a gift." So it's always wise to think about what you're gifting. I say stay away from promotional products as gifts, and find out, one, like who that individual is that you're attempting to nurture or create a relationship. Just do a little bit of investigating. I mean, everybody has social media. Here's a secret: you can Google people. Google that person. Find their LinkedIn page, find their Facebook page, go to their Twitter, check out their Instagram. Are they a dog lover? Does your employee like to go kayaking on the weekends? Does your vendor have 7 kids and they all go to Disneyland every year? You can find out so much just available on people's public social media profiles or just by Googling, that individual or that family. Find something that you think is meaningful to that person. And I'm not saying go and spend $1,000 on a gift or go spend, $50, $500, whatever. The monetary value of the gift doesn't mean anything. What means the most is the intent, as well as you took the time to find something that they have appreciation for. That's, personalized and individualized to that person. That is a much stronger bond that you're forming than if you sent them a Frisbee with, XYZ nonprofit on the top of it.
So if we were to look at an example, we could pull from any industry. We could look at, say, well, like real estate agents. What would a real estate agent do, and what would they give to have this kind of giftology relationship management thing? What would you give as a real estate agent? I should just get like a magnet for the fridge, right, with my face on it?
That is hilarious. I back when I did this, yeah, real estate agents were some of my best clients. But no, to answer your question, don't do that. Don't turn their refrigerator into a billboard, please. And don't get them something that's just going to become clutter. Don't get a mug. Don't get, just clutter. Don't get a pen. One of my favorite gifts that we sourced all the time for real estate agents was simply an engraved piece of cutlery or even a knife block. And you engrave it with that family's name who's moving into the home. And that piece does a couple of things. One, it's very endearing to the family. They're like, oh, wow, I use knives every day. Every day I'm in the kitchen, right? So 2 things. They're going to see that every single day and be reminded of you. Anybody who comes to the house is going to see it and say, hey, where'd you get that? And now all of a sudden you're getting word of mouth and even more impressions off of this one gift. And then, excuse me, it's in the kitchen, which we spend hours of our day in, whether it's prepping for breakfast, lunch, snacks, dinner. It's somewhere that's always going to be seen. You get exponentially more impressions from that one gift that maybe you spent $500 on than you would have sending out a $7 mug. So for $7, you can send a mug with your nonprofit's name on it and get one impression. When they open it, they're going to look at it and go, oh, hey, cool. A mug from, Billy Bob's Realty. And it's going to go in a cabinet or it's going to go in a junk drawer. They're never going to see it again. One impression. Spend a little bit more money, get a personalized gift for the home that sits in the kitchen. They're going to see it every day. Every person that comes in the house is going to see it. You're going to get exponentially more impressions, more word of mouth marketing. And I know we're talking real estate agents right now, but it's the same thing for nonprofits. Don't send out a promotional product that's going to get you one impression, maybe cool, something to fidget with for a couple of days. Send out something that's meaningful, that's going to just exponentially get you more impressions and endear you to that person.
Well, absolutely. If you've been listening to my show for a while and you've listened to our episode with Patrick Kirby, he always says that you can't ask a major donor for a gift unless you know the name of their dog. So if you take that little piece of content and what Justin's talking about, and you find something magical that you could get to your donor for their dog who loves them unconditionally, and then something they can see how you cared about them as a person enough to reach into their life and get them something of value for someone or something that they care about, like their best friend, that's going to go a lot farther than having a pen with someone's name on it. And I was sitting in the kitchen just this past week, getting back from Bahrain and getting into it, and I have this promotional stuff around the house. You get mailers and you get different pens, and like you can be your business on this pen, which is not a bad way to get business. But then I look back and I see a junk drawer full of these pens, and I'm like, am I ever going to pulls out random pen, go to Brightside DDS because of this pen? Absolutely not. I could care less. I have a pen I don't care what company's name on it. It's in the drunk drawer, getting nothing but darkness and a little bit of shade on this show, apparently.
Well, we won't tag them in the social posts, okay? They'll never know.
I don't even know it's a real company. I just remember the DDS on the pen. But it's so much more. So what does this relationship management look like as someone that would need a service like relationship management? Are you just giving a gift, or are you doing something more? What does the day-to-day look like for relationship management?
Really, the gift is kind of it can be the precipice or it can be the closer. The relationship management itself is an ongoing process. So it starts, just like any other relationship. You meet someone, whether virtually, they're an acquaintance, or let's say they're a prospect. They're not even a donor, right? You're not looking to get money from them. They're just a new vendor or a new volunteer, a new employee, a new board member. That's where it begins. That's the starting off point. You start it just like you would any other relationship, whether they're in your primary relationship group, your close-knit family, or if they're a secondary relationship group where it's just an acquaintance, a work friend, a vendor, etc., as I've said. So day to day, you treat it like every other relationship. You should not silo or segment these relationships. Oh, this is work, this is a client, this is a donor. So I have to be ultra professional. I have to, there is a term that's called code switching. I'm not sure how familiar your audience is with it, but code switching is often used. You'll see politicians do it a lot, depending on who they're speaking in front of. So if they're in front of, a bunch of hicks like me out in Illinois, right? They get their little twang and they're talking about the days out on the tractor and all that stuff. And their voice starts to change, the words that they're using change, as opposed to if they were speaking to a group from the inner city, or they're speaking to a group of, Harvard professors. So there is always, it's not a bad thing. A lot of people look at it as some type of pandering. It's not pandering. It's just, you need to know your audience. You need to know the person you're trying to have this relationship with. So you use a little bit of code switching to start off with. You try to, and gosh, you even see this in like body language. You kind of mirror their body language. You kind of, you start to speak in their terms. You just try to find that common ground. And I'm sorry, Travis, I am so off topic. I don't even remember the original intent of the question, but treat it like a normal relationship. Do not try to go above and beyond. Do not try to minimize any aspect of the relationship. It's just treat them like a human being. Treat them how you want to be treated. Endear yourself to them, and you'll create either a absolutely raving advocate that loves your nonprofit and your brand, or you're going to create a donor. It really depends on what the objective of your relationship is with that person.
No, I don't think you got off topic there. I think you went a little bit deeper than maybe you intended to. But this is important. If you watch the news, people don't know how to manage their relationships right now with each other as human beings, depending on what news station that you're watching. But what I think you're trying to say, and let me know if I'm off base, is, I might get my wife flowers. And it's not the flowers. It's not the fact that I'm getting her a gift. And it's not how much I spend on the flowers. But it's a nice reminder for her to know that I'm thinking about her during the day or at a random time. Not because I'm in trouble, not because I did something, or, I hope she gets these flowers before she checks, the Amazon bill or whatever. Thanks, COVID. But it's something that you're building a relationship. Like I started this podcast in Bahrain. I know I mentioned this just about every episode, but how do you maintain a relationship when you're 7,000 miles away? And one of the ways that I did that is that because I was consuming a boatload of content through Facebook and other media, and listening to podcasts and everything else while I was getting this thing really started. And I would come across a piece of information or an insight or a connection that really could help or impact someone else in my network. And I would go ahead and share that and be like, hey, I was scrolling through this. I saw this amazing thing. It looks like the thing you were asking about last week. So I figured I'd send it to you, help all as well. And Not that I'm like trying to, unlock the secrets to business relationships, but for people to know that without just a transaction happening, like, I give you money, you give me product or
Mhm.
service, it's more than just that transaction. It's this transformational thing that you're building together, and you're building your net. It's not networking, right? You're building your network, but you're
No, but what you just described is strategic gifting. It wasn't a tangible product that you mailed them as a gift, but it was strategically finding something of value to that person that's going to better them or something that they would appreciate. You mentioned sending flowers to your wife. That is a very intimate relationship where flowers would be appropriate, right? But as a nonprofit director, you're not going to send flowers to every potential donor. And I wouldn't suggest it for a couple reasons. One, because they're perishable, right? The impressions end as soon as the flowers die. So when you're thinking about sending gifts to donors or vendors or employees, find non-perishables. Don't send chocolate or candy or anything to be eaten, because those impressions go away as soon as the bag is gone. Um, yeah. You just jogged my memory with that. But again, it doesn't have to be a physical product. It can be a piece of information. Hey, Travis, I saw you were looking for something like this. I found it. Here you go. It doesn't need to be, like you said, I go to Travis, hey, I have this service, buy it from me. And then Travis buys it and I give him the thing. No, it's a normal relationship. Travis, I saw you needed this. Here's the value. Here's this thing you're going to appreciate. And then you begin this relationship. And
and what this
depending
might
on
look
your
like.
intent.
Yeah, and what this might look like for a nonprofit is you have donors, and you get to know these donors, and you find out things they care about. Well, you might hear an opportunity, or you might hear about an event that they care about. And like, hey, I was thinking about you, and I saw this event that seemed like right up your alley. I wanted to make sure you knew about it. And they're like, you mean you're not asking for me for money? You're not just thanking me for the last thing I did? You thought about me as a human being, and you thought this might
Mhm.
be interesting? Thank you. That's really cool. Or, hey, I know you're in this business, and I've got this guy starting up. He's looking for a mentor. If you'd be interested, I can make the connection for you. It is just about being a human being and elevating others, providing value without expectation, and just being out there and doing good stuff.
Travis, you would be really surprised, or maybe not, that many nonprofits that I interact with don't have any type of CRM or any way to track, clients or donors, or it's almost like they have an Excel spreadsheet and that's kind of it, right? Um, if I could suggest one thing to help nurture relationships, it's invest in some type of CRM, or at least some way of tracking not just the name and the amount somebody donated or where they live, you know, an actual database that you can put things like interests and where they work. Are they married? Do they have a family? Because that stuff doesn't just help with strategic gifting. It helps with just relationship management in general, because now when you address that person or you make that phone call, the person that is doing the calling has that information in front of them, and it just makes that phone call, or it makes that letter that you've sent out, or that email, or this Zoom call, just makes it so much more personable. And mm, I
You're
can't
not
think of the
you're not
words.
losing that data, or that relationship's not degrading over time. This is perfect because I just had Alex Fram Schwartz do a Salesforce tutorial with me, and I posted that on my Facebook group, facebook.com/group/nonprofit architect. And he walked through how to use Salesforce, which is a CRM like Justin's talking about. And if you have 10 users or less, it's free for nonprofits, which is great. And linking back to Patrick Kirby again, he just put out a live where he talked about donor management. If you look at uh,
Yep.
your fundraising person, the average time in that seat is about 18 months. Well, if you're taking 3 years to cultivate, 3 or 4 years to cultivate a relationship with a major donor, they might go through 3 or 4 people. And if you haven't codified every interaction that you've had with this person into a CRM like Salesforce, I'm not promoting Salesforce. They're free, which is great for you. But
Exactly. Yeah.
if you haven't tracked that relationship and know what you've been talking about and where you're at in that and what you're doing, you're going to lose that, and you're going to lose the relationship. You're going to lose the donor, and they're going to go to someone else that cares about them, because not tracking what you're talking about with that person is like you not caring about them.
Exactly. And there's many in your car or sitting at home because of COVID right now, listening and thinking, well, my nonprofit, we're like, there's two of us, and we have a donor list of 10 people, or I only have, 50 connections. Don't wait to jump into something like Salesforce. Don't try to track everything on an Excel sheet, because eventually you will run out of room. You will run out of energy. You just won't have the time to do that type of nurturing and maintenance that a list like that requires. So start as soon as you can in a program where you can manage contacts, tags, record conversations, via note taking, etc., so that you never lose that information and you can continue to, I hate re-saying the same word over and over again, but you continue nurturing that relationship so that they don't leave you, because just like Travis said, I mean, you have this relationship, you spend all of that time cultivating that relationship, and then if the person feels not cared for or not valued, they're just going to find another nonprofit or another organization to throw their support behind. And if you can retain that donor, retain that support, I mean, that's the goal. You want to retain it for as long as possible so that your mission can be completed.
Oh, absolutely. And you also want to avoid simple mix-ups, that having a plethora of Google Sheets or Google Docs that are, being shared, and someone updates the wrong doc and all this stuff. And then you go to call someone and, oh, hey, how's your divorce going? Oh, well, they're married for 25 years with 3 kids, like
Exactly.
mix up the details of getting your donor streams crossed, and you never want to cross streams. You've been doing some consulting with nonprofits a little bit on the side, and helping them, stay active and fundraise during COVID
Mm-hmm.
times. What does that conversation look like? How has that conversation changed with this time period?
Well, you mentioned it earlier, Travis. You and I are veterans. Well, you're still active duty, so you're not a veteran yet, but you will be soon, eventually. So I, just through my years of working in a for-profit business, have interacted many times with nonprofits, and have developed some great relationships with veteran nonprofits here locally in San Diego and even elsewhere. Fortunately, I served in the same battalion, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines, as the CEO or founder of 23rd Veteran, which is a veteran nonprofit that helps transitioning veterans kind of lose that warrior mindset and kind of go back into civilian mode, for lack of a better term. And they need to fundraise to do that, obviously. Well, pandemic hits. He's telling me over Facebook Messenger, look, 23rd Veterans not going to be running any events. Minnesota just shut us down. We're not going to be able to have this. They have these nearly naked ruck marches, which is just a fun name for a little hike that they do as a fundraising event. They encourage people to come with a backpack full of, non-perishable items to donate to homeless veterans, and people pay that support their programs for these transitioning vets. Cancel. All fundraising activities had ceased. And we were able, because at Knucklehead Media Group, we deal with broadcast media and podcasts and YouTube and television, et cetera, to kind of pitch, hey, we don't need to stop the Nearly Naked Ruck March. People can ruck in their own area or at home doing some type of physical activity, or within social distancing guidelines set by the CDC. And we can broadcast that, on Facebook or on YouTube or on your website. People can continue to donate and give them, these interactions to support the community. We did that with great success for the Nearly Naked Ruck March event. We did that twice more with these Run the Virus events that 23rd Veteran is doing. And we're raising hundreds of thousands of dollars and continuing to support veterans in lieu of shutting down. I mean, that was the option. It was either find a new fundraising source or shut down during the pandemic. I would never suggest a nonprofit to shut down, especially a veteran nonprofit, because I love my community. I want them to get as much help as possible. And I love this nonprofit. So I was, just because of my relationship with him, able to jump in there and assist them pivoting to a virtual style event. And I mean, we had, I want to say something like 1,800 participants. 47 states were represented as opposed to one. Normally at an in-person Nearly Naked Ruck March, it's one city and one state. There's no virtual component. We were able to get almost every state in the United States involved. We got 5 different countries. We had an entire company of Army soldiers that are stationed in Iraq on their combat outposts actually march live with us. It was amazing, and it was a great way to raise funds. All 3 events have been smashing successes, and they've continued to be able to support veterans throughout the pandemic. I say all of that to say, that yes, the pandemic has changed how we're going to fundraise. Even when the pandemic ends, virtual events can be a huge tool to either augment your in-person fundraising events or as in addition to in-person fundraising. So I encourage everyone to, learn more about virtual events, or, reach out to someone like me, or just someone who's in a space that you can kind of throw some ideas out and say, hey, how can we take advantage of this virtual space instead of sitting at home and worrying, hey, we can't fundraise, I can't see my donors, I can't do this, I can't do that. How can we pivot to a digital experience that we can continue to monetize and fundraise to support our mission?
First off, I didn't know you knew Mike and served with Mike. I talked to Mike Walter just like last month because we're both from Minnesota. We talked about this. And I was getting all the emails that your team was sending out, which was great content. I almost went nearly naked myself. And then my wife told me to go ruck myself, and I didn't participate. But that was her time. I just got back to the States. I wasn't the free agent. I was being employed at the time. Kids weren't home, and I was not allowed to do such things at the time, which, of course, I'm just joking. But that's cool. I didn't know you knew Mike. That's awesome.
That is. Mike and I were in 2.5. We crossed paths. He was in headquarters and weapons. I was in Fox Company. And then we relinked outside of the Marine Corps. I'm 13 years removed from being in the Marine Corps. And it was just happenstance that we ran across each other again. And now I get to support his awesome mission at 23rd Veteran. It's great.
That's so cool. I love how small the veteran entrepreneur / nonprofit community is. You get in with a couple of great people like yourself. I mean, you're from the Knucklehead Media Group, and I had Steven on the show earlier last year. And I did some work with his wife, Jules, over the last summer. I just love how tight-knit we are. And once you get into a good core and a good group of people, just how everything grows and expands. It's wonderful.
Really? And I know you're a Navy. You're a sailor, even though I know you're land-based, really. My last event we just did was the Never Forgotten 5K for the Navy Special Operations Foundation. Another event that was supposed to be held in person here at Liberty Station in San Diego, where we do a 5K in memory of naval special operators that have lost their lives and Gold family members that they've left behind. They had to cancel it. San Diego had stopped all in-person events. Even within social distancing guidelines, it just didn't make sense to host a 5K. Knucklehead went in there. We pivoted to a virtual event. We made some phone calls. Amazingly enough, Tommy Lahren from Fox Nation made a guest appearance. Randy Couture, UFC Hall of Famer, made a guest appearance. Brad Snyder and John, I'm going to butcher his last name, I think it was Krotek. They're both gold medal U.S. Paralympians, made appearances. And we had this entire virtual interactive 5K where we had people all around the nation running with us in their homes, at their parks. Raising funds for Gold Star families and transitioning naval special operators. It was amazing. It was their biggest event to date, better than their in-person events. So I know other people are sitting at home right now and saying, yeah, we could do a virtual event, but I mean, how much are we really going to get from that? And you got to think about it. An in-person event only allows people in person to really support your cause. A virtual augmentation allows anyone from anywhere to support your cause. So it really is important, even if you don't do strictly virtual events, to have some type of digital virtual experience, you know, going forward and augmenting those fundraising events, because it's so powerful.
Oh yeah, and John does the Green Zone Hero. If you want to link
Mm-hmm.
it with John Krotek, but that's a good point, right? You're allowing people outside of the local area to get involved. So, like I was in Bahrain, and I've got listeners. Bahrain, like America, is a hub for many different nations. So, like launching my podcast, I had listeners in China and India and Australia and Switzerland. A big fan, have big fans in Switzerland and Brazil and all over, but they're allowed to interact with me and connect with me because of the platform that we use and because we do it online. If you're only hosting virtual events, you're telling anyone that could possibly support you from another state or another country, no, we're not interested in your support. We don't need you. So by hosting, at least having an option for an online event, you get the opportunity to have other people support the same kind of mission, the same people that you care about. And think about this: if you're in a small town, if you're in a small town of 1 to 500 people, there's not a whole lot of fundraising going on. You're doing a spaghetti dinner and a raffle, and maybe auctioning off a gun or something. You're not engaging
Mm-hmm.
with the greater world community writ large that might care about the same thing you're doing. If you're doing these
And
online
it's
events, you can link up with other organizations with similar missions, and you can take both of your networks and expand it and do something amazing, but only if you switch to online.
exactly, and it's not enough, because another little bit of pushback I have received when speaking to nonprofits is, some people will say, well, we have a website. If people want to support us from other states or other countries or whatever, they just go to the website and they make a donation. Or, yeah, we got a Facebook. They can just select our nonprofit, or we have an Amazon Smile. They can just select us there and support us that way. It's, you want the user experience, or in this case, the donor experience, to be as easy and seamless as possible. You don't want them to have to go find your website or track you down on Facebook and, click here, click there, 10 steps to get you. No, you want to go to them. So you host this online event, and it's not some big conference or some plain Jane Zoom call, right? We make it truly interactive. We give them something to do, something to support your mission with. And that just generates this buzz. And all of a sudden they're coming to your Facebook page, right? And they're like, how do I donate? How do I support this mission? And if you believe in your mission enough and you truly support your cause, I'm positive that you have the capability to sell that cause to someone else.
If you make your events and likable and you get your people engaged, you're going to be able to do anything. If
Exactly.
you're not likable, if you're not engaging the people around you, why would they even talk to you, let alone give you money?
Yeah. You won't be in the nonprofit space very long.
No, absolutely not. So what parting advice do you have for our listeners out there?
Well, I don't have anything to pitch you. So I'm not going to leave you with some free, ebook download or anything. I would say if you're interested in learning more about giftology, or strategic relationship management, things like that, strategic gifting, go check out the Ruling Group. They're a great bunch of dudes. The book Giftology is really what I started my first business on. It was very successful. It's a great book, even just for intimate relationships in your life. You don't necessarily need to use it for business or nonprofit. It's just good stuff to know, right? It just makes you a better person. And then secondly, definitely take the time to reach out to someone like myself, Knucklehead Media Group, someone within your circle that can help you understand the value of continuing to fundraise during the pandemic, leveraging these digital channels and virtual events, so that you're not losing out on, however many months we have left of this lockdown and quarantine 2.0 and all these other things that are happening across the world. Reach out. Justin@knucklehead.agency. I'd be more than willing to answer any questions, just give you some advice, and then talk about how we can help. We just want to make sure that your mission continues to be serviced, that you continue fundraising and getting, the assistance that you need.
That's fantastic. I can't think of a better way to end the show. Thank you, Justin Szerletich. Wonderful having you on. Thanks to Stephen at Knucklehead Media Group for sharing you today. And have fun getting your house set up, put together. I can't wait to see you when it's done.
Travis, it's been all my pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Boom, that's it.
Seriously, though, thank you for letting me come on.